Welcome, everyone, to our episode number 5 of Common Sense Choices, and I'm Linda Toupin. Happy New Year, everybody! I was going to wear the hat, but it was going to mess up my hair, and we can't have that. Well, welcome back, everyone. I am so excited about today's episode because it's one of my most favorite people in the entire world, Dr. Lena Edwards. But before I tell you all about her, and by the way, just go ahead and grab a notebook unless you're driving your car because you're going to want to take lots and lots of notes. But before we get started, let's talk about the first 4 episodes. You guys are amazing. You know, when I started this journey a little over a month ago, I had no idea what I'd signed up for, to be quite honest. I was just kind of making up as I went along, but you all have been incredible to work with, and I cannot wait to see what 2022 brings us. Well, first of all, our very first episode focused on our platform for this entire podcast, which is my mantra. So say it with me. And by the way, I have my cup. Look at that, with my little lipstick already on it this morning. In case you don't have one, you can pick one up at www.lindatoupin.com under the button that says Stuff I Didn't Know I Needed. Anyway, so let's say it together. I am where I am by the choices I have made or I have allowed others to make for me. That's personal responsibility. And your very first homework assignment was to begin to journal some of those 35,000 choices that you're making a day. Those little bitty choices add up to really big twists and turns in your life. And boy, today's speaker is really going to bring that home for sure. Our second episode focused on the crease in the piece of paper, which is programming. What you're allowing in your brain to program you. And we've just come out of 21 months of a lot of programming, and much of it being very toxic and harmful to our mental health. And so we talked about that programming, and I asked you in your homework to begin to journal how much media you were consuming, how much news you were consuming, and to begin to regulate that so that you can balance that out, to be informed, but also to have a healthy life. Our third episode, I brought in psychotherapist Pat Pearson, and she worked with us on how to remove toxic thoughts. And your homework was to begin to research Pat, not only her podcast, which is called Stop Self-Sabotage, but also her website, where you can pick up many of her great books. And our fourth episode, our Christmas episode, was on hope and healing. I was incredibly transparent with you all. Thank you for your love in that. On the 7 things I did to funnel my anger that I was feeling about the pandemic and all that went around with that, how I funneled that into positive action so that I could heal emotionally and mentally, and therefore be able to help others do the same. So that's your homework so far. Well, let me just say quickly that the thing that you can do to support our podcast is to share it. And when you share it, your name goes in a drawing every single week for a little shopping trip over to Stuff I Didn't Know I Needed store on lindatoupin.com. And our winner this week, drum roll please, is Jennifer Huff. Congratulations, Jennifer. And Jennifer also has been commenting a lot. I'm beginning to get to know all of our friends and followers of our podcast. So the more you comment, the more you share, the more I get to know you. And, you know, this is called a podcast and a vlog, but it's really just me hanging out with you and you hanging out with me. And I love that. I love that. And I'm so excited about our brand new year. So let's get down to the business at hand today. I've been so excited about this. You guys are going to love this woman. I'm going to read you her official introduction, and then I'm going to really tell you about her. First of all, my guest today is Dr. Lena Edwards, who is an internal medicine doctor who is also board certified and fellowship trained in integrative, anti-aging, and functional medicine. So let me say that again. She is board certified and fellowship trained in integrative, anti-aging, and functional medicine. She has over 20 years of experience in clinical practice and specializes in treating hormone imbalance. I know all about this. Stress-related health issues. I know all about this. Gut problems and immune system dysfunction. All right, which is our topic today. And she also has a website. We'll throw that up here for you right now, drlenaedwards.com. You'll be able to really get to know her on her website, order some of her materials, and begin to learn more about her. And then also, my favorite is her Facebook group. And oh my goodness, if you have not checked out her Facebook group, it is called From Barely Surviving to absolutely thriving, from barely surviving to absolutely thriving, which brings me to my personal introduction to her, which started, I believe, Lena, 11 years ago, 10 years ago. I was just a mess. I was just a mess. I was a hormonal mess. I was going through menopause and just a mess. That's the only word I can use is a mess. And someone said, do you know who Dr. Lena Edwards were? And of course, or is. And you were here in Lexington, Kentucky. I was living in Indiana. So I made a trip down to Lexington. I saw you. And I'll never forget my first visit, just the amount of paperwork I filled out and the number of questions you asked me. I thought, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm going into a courtroom here. This is incredible. And then you ordered all my blood work. And I'll never forget the lady at LabCorp saying to me, are you a patient of the Mayo Clinic? And I said, no, I'm just a patient of Dr. Lena Edwards. Anyway, so almost with probably immediately within a month or two, I began to feel so much better. And my life just began to change. You're just like a detective. It's unbelievable what you do with people. And I've just been blessed beyond words. And so blessed that when I retired from my sales career in 2020, on stage in front of 10,000 or so people in Orlando, Florida, you were one of my honored people on stage because you have made such a big difference in my life, Lena. And we'll have a picture here of you on stage in red. You really show up because you wore red. And you have another distinct honor in my life, Lena, and that is that you're the only person who ever gave me a gift from Tiffany's. And I treasure that. It's so special. So you guys, get your notebook out unless you're driving. If you're driving, hands on the wheel at 9 and 2, eyes straight forward. And remember, you're going to be doing a lot of research and checking out Dr. Edwards, and you're going to be hearing from her a lot this year. So would you please welcome Dr. Lena Edwards?
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Wow. Now I have to live up to all of those amazing things you just said. Thank you for such a kind introduction. It's very, very sweet of you. And Merry Christmas, Happy Almost New Year to you and everybody else who's listening or watching today.
Oh,
and I have been an avid watcher of your podcast, listening to your podcasts and watching your shows. And I cry almost every time because you're such an inspiration to so many women, and just seeing the transformation that you and other women have once, they have the health back and then they use it to help other women. And it's just, it's such a blessing to be part of it. And you're as big of a blessing to me as I apparently am to you. And so we're just going to have a big love fest. Okay, now it's over. But I also wanted to say that, first of all, my lucky number is 5. I don't know if you planned it that way. So I feel really happy because I'm the 5th episode and that's my lucky number. But also, it's such a great way to segue into the previous 4 episodes that you've already had, discussing things like choices and programming and toxic thoughts, because by the time we're through this presentation today, all of those things are very, very influential in a healthy immune system and how your immune system is going to function. And I'm going to talk about that as we move forward.
Well, it made perfect sense to me when I was putting this together that we start with mental health. I can talk about time management, money management, organization, running businesses from home. There's a million topics I can talk about, but until we've got our mental health from COVID and everything that happened with that, and our health back, all of that is null and void. And so that's why it was so important to me today that we use your time with us today to speak directly to our immune system. And so you have to be seeing a lot of really bad stuff out there right now. So where do we start, Dr. Edwards? Where do we start?
Well, I think that one of the things that was really important, and I was really happy to hear you stress this, was natural. Things that we can do that are natural things that we can improve our immune system function. Because I do feel like over the years and years that I've been practicing medicine, and also as an individual, I think sometimes we rely too heavily on taking pills, whether it's because physicians are telling us we need a pill, or we feel like we need to go buy 72 supplements from wherever drugstore because we're trying to help ourselves feel better. But I feel like one of the things that isn't really brought to light very often, because it doesn't generate a lot of dollars for any kind of industry, is the self-awareness and the control over self and things that people can do that are free and in most cases less expensive, that will actually help not only improve their immune system function, but also their overall health in general. So,
Well, it's interesting that you said that, because so many times during the past 2 months, I thought there are no lobbyists in Washington, D.C. for our natural immune system, things that we could do every single day that would be free. I actually addressed that in the fourth issue. I thought, or the fourth episode, it was like, if I had been in charge, we would have been talking every time we used the word COVID, we would have been talking about things that you can do right now to improve your own natural body's defenses.
that's exactly right. So obviously there are a lot of things, but I've narrowed it down to the top 10. I like the number 10. It's kind of round. And there are more than 10 things, but I think I tried to prioritize and list them in the order that I think that they're the most important. And I'm sorry, some of this stuff, people are going to be rolling their eyes probably and cursing my name and saying, is she crazy? But I'm just going to put it all out there, and what people choose to do with the information obviously is going to be up to them. Everybody's different. So the very first thing you need to do for your immune system to work as best as it possibly can is to stress less. Okay. Yes, I know this is where the eye roll comes in. They're like, really? It's the holidays. We have all of this COVID stuff going on. We've got, and it's kind of a vicious cycle because there's lots of research coming out now about COVID and the negative mental health effects that it's having on people. And actually how people are resorting to behaviors and lifestyles that are unhealthy for them, which is actually making them more susceptible to getting COVID, like alcohol and smoking. And we're going to talk about those things in a moment. But, it's kind of like there's so much information. And because this is such a new illness, there's so much misinformation. And so that builds into the fear, which then fuels the stress. And so, that's just part of it. What's really important to understand is your body doesn't differentiate between kinds of stress. Okay. So some degree of stress is good. We need stress to help us know right from wrong, to help us flee from things that are potentially dangerous, to help us perform better in situations that require us to be on edge and ready to go. But there's a happy medium. There's a bell-shaped curve for everything. And when it comes to stress, that's no different. So, a little bit of stress is good, but when you push it for a long period of time, we were never designed to be chased by a lion for 20 years or 30 years or however long, most of us live in stressful situations. So the chemical response is always the same. And when your body's put into situations of chronic stress, whether it's because you just got into an argument with your 20-year-old who wants to move in with his girlfriend, he's only known for 3 months. Yes, that's me. Or if, you're stressed out because you're doing too much exercise, because over-exercising is actually a stress. The situation will be the same chemically, and your body will do things to preserve your survival. So things like normal immune system function are going to go down the toilet because your body can't focus on all of those things at the same time. So, and there's a complicated, scientific rationale behind that, which if anybody really wants to read that, they can go elsewhere because I really don't want to talk about it. It's too complicated. But anyway, so trying to figure out ways to de-stress. And that's what I was saying. I don't have the laundry list for how to do that because it's different for everybody, because everybody's stressors are different and everybody chooses different ways to de-stress. I love to be outside. I love to garden. I love to be in nature. I love to pray. So there's different things that people can do to de-stress. I haven't come up with the solution for my son yet, but I'm working on that. So anyway, so finding ways to manage stress, really, really, really important, and minimizing things that are going to make you stressed. So if watching the news makes you stressed out, here's a spoiler alert. It's going to be the same thing every single day for the next 2 years minimum, because that's what it's been for the last 2 years. So unless there's something really amazing that comes up in the news that's brand new, I'm sure Linda or I will let you know, it's probably going to be the same thing regurgitated over and over, just in a different way. So just turn it off. So that's one example. So stress is a big deal. It's a really, really big deal. The second big thing you need to do if you want your immune system to work well, and I don't mean just get you by, but to work as good as it possibly can work, is you've got to sleep. Yes, that means I roll 7 hours of uninterrupted sleep. Now, That is what every society on the planet recommends. And yes, that can differ based on genetics. Sometimes people need a little less sleep, but there is so much research that's been done. If you're getting less than 5 hours of sleep, nothing in your body is going to work the way it's supposed to work. I don't care if you eat 100 calories a day, you're not going to lose weight. I don't care if you take every brain supplement on the planet, you're not going to remember anything. And certainly, health wise, you name any disease on the planet, and you are much more likely to get it if you are not getting adequate sleep. Really, really, really important. They've done research on people that do shift work, on people that have chronic insomnia, and have found that their immune system function in people that don't sleep is not good at all. Not good at all. And even more scary is that if you don't get adequate sleep, vaccinations do not work as well, even if you've been vaccinated. So, and there's research out there if you want, actually, my next newsletter is going to be talking about some of these things, and there'll be references in there, but everything I'm telling you is based on research, but also on clinical experience. So sleeping, people, that's probably one of the most common problems that people have, especially women, whether it's related to hormone imbalance, or I had one patient one time who finally admitted after 6 years that she was drinking a Starbucks Frappuccino every night when she was reading her book in bed. And that's why she wasn't sleeping, because we couldn't figure out what was doing it. There's something in your environment that's probably contributing. So need to be focusing on getting optimal sleep. One big thing.
Stop you for just a second, or I'll forget it. You mentioned your newsletter, and I love getting your emails because they're quick and they're to the point and what have you. How do people get signed up for that?
Oh, they can just go to my website, www.drlenaedwards.com, and sign up there and get them.
Okay.
Yeah, if something's more than 2 paragraphs, I stop reading, so I figure everybody else is the same. So, anyway, one quick mention on the sleep piece of it. All of us, we wear our Fitbits at night to monitor our sleep, and we listen to meditation things, and you've got to get electronic devices out of your bed. So important for sleep. I've got so many people I've worked with where that's all it took. Shutting off the television, taking their cell phones out of their bedroom, or at least putting them at least 10 feet away from their body, making sure that there's no electronic devices, not only because of the blue light exposure, but also because the radiation that is emitted by these devices can interfere with you getting into REM sleep. Even if your eyes are closed and you think you're sleeping, your brain is not going to get efficient sleep, which means your immune system is not going to work as well as it should. Sorry, I get really excited, so I talk really fast, so I'm trying to slow myself down.
No, you're good.
Okay, this is good because they're recorded. People can just rewind and repeat if they want to. Okay. Now, the next 3 things really kind of go along with each other because they involve what we put in our mouth. So food, alcohol, and cigarettes. I know we inhale smoke, but technically the cigarette still goes in our mouth. So those things are kind of all intertwined, and all of them have bad effects on your health. The smoking thing, I probably don't need to spend a lot of time on. There is really nothing beneficial to your health when it comes to smoking. And actually, last June 2020, the World Health Organization put together a big consensus paper, which is the reference is going to be in the newsletter, talking about the negative effects of cigarette smoking on COVID. And again, every illness, not just COVID, but because everybody's so focused on COVID right now. But it has been shown, cigarette smoking has been shown to increase the severity of the disease, and also to increase the likelihood of you dying from this disease or any other respiratory illness for that matter, if you are a smoker. So I'm trying not to spend a lot of time talking about the scientific way in which these things negatively impact your immune system, because it gets really complicated, because there's lots of different aspects of the immune system, lots of different cells that are involved. And so I figured that part of it probably isn't as important as just knowing the things that you have the control over fixing and changing that will overall help optimize immune system function. So if people want more detail than that, then just let me know and I'll be happy to provide that. So anyway,
but
go ahead.
Before we move on, I want to go back and just affirm what you said about electronic devices and getting rid of the blue lights, because even like the security monitor in my room, I covered it up with something. My stereo had a blue light on it, and after a while I realized that is the most annoying thing on earth. And just going in every night and making sure everything is turned off, everything, and that my phone is way over on the other side of the bedroom so that I don't have to, I can't even reach it.
Yep, it makes a big difference. It really does. So, okay, alcohol, yes. Believe me, I always make fun of my kids because there are three of them. And every Christmas, I always buy 3 bottles of wine. And they say, "Oh, Mom, you're so awesome." I'm like, "No, one of them is for because I have you. The other one's because I have you. And the other one's because I have you. So they're all for me. And it's because I have three of you." So, especially this time of the year, in stressful situations, a little alcohol takes the edge off. And even when we're talking about diet, the Mediterranean diet, which is healthy for so many different reasons, incorporates, moderate consumption of wine. So I'm not saying all wine is bad. And this is where, depending on who you talk to and people who have too much free time, you come up with all of these different conflicting pieces of information about what's good and what's bad and how much and which kind. And I just go back to everything in moderation. But alcohol also has negative impacts on your immune system. And they've actually done research to show that one episode of binge drinking shuts down your immune system within about 20 minutes. Kind of scary. So, yeah. So now I don't know, binge drinking can mean different things for different people. But yes. So, but chronic alcohol consumption, again, just in general for health is just a bad idea, but specifically for immune system function, not only does it suppress a normal, healthy immune system, but recent research has also shown that it suppresses, actually, this isn't recent, it's recent for COVID. But when you drink a lot of alcohol, it actually will suppress the activity of the vaccines. So any vaccination that you get will not work as well if you drink a lot of alcohol. Because you have to have, if you think about it this way, a vaccination is utilizing your body's own immune system to help it become stronger in the event you are assaulted by whatever you're getting vaccinated with, right? So in order for that vaccine to work, I always explain it, it's like a military, and you're sending in the Navy SEALs. Okay, well, the Navy SEALs can't attack, the bad guys if they're sitting around, eating bonbons, drinking beer, and watching football, right? So you have to keep them on high alert. You have to keep those Navy SEALs trained and ready to go when the bad guys show up. Otherwise, they can't do what they're supposed to do. So people that are out there getting vaccines, and I'm not going to go into the politics of any of that, whether it's the flu shot or any other shot for that matter, alcohol, smoking, poor diet, and lack of sleep all decrease the effectiveness of those vaccines.
Wow.
Okay. So now food, that's another one. That's a tough one because I'm a foodie and it's hard. But I think that if you're looking at it from the perspective of, I need to lose weight, which yes, that's a big goal for most people this time of the year. When I work with my patients, and when I try to think about this myself, I try to think about it more from the perspective of how do I want to feel? Not so much what does the scale say or what size of clothing do I wear, but how do I feel on a daily basis if I eat these things or if I don't eat these things? Because even as an internist, it's really hard to try to talk people into developing healthy lifestyles, especially if they've had, other health habits that maybe aren't so healthy for years and years, and then you're trying to help them change. That's really, really hard. And if your argument is, well, please just stop smoking and don't drink so much because in 15 to 20 years from now, you might become diabetic. That's really hard for people to get incentivized about, right? That's hard. So that's why, okay, 5 pounds came off. That's great. But if you start paying attention really to just how you feel physically, then you won't want to eat whatever it is that you think you can't live without because you'll feel like awful for several hours to days after you eat it. And from my perspective, and again, I'm a person, not just a doctor, if I eat something that makes me feel bad, it doesn't only affect how I feel, it affects how I think. It affects my ability to work with my patients because my brain fog is horrible. I'm exhausted. Forget what the scale says. I'm not functional. And I talk with women all the time. And I say women because I work exclusively with women now, but where, we work together, we optimize their diet, gut health, we work on food allergies, that type of thing. And just doing those things makes such an enormous difference in how they feel. And oh, by the way, you're going to lose weight in the process. And oh, by the way, your immune system is going to love you because you took away all of the garbage that you were putting into your body, expecting it to perform for you when you weren't giving it the right fuel it needs to perform. So, it's interesting. I always laugh. I give my parents grief over this because when I was growing up, whenever I got sick, they used to give me orange juice to drink, which is pretty much just sugar. And I think that's just a thing. But like the worst thing you can do to somebody when they're sick is give them sugar because it makes all of the cells of their immune system basically take a nap. So don't have sugar. I mean, at least, and if you're sick, don't drink ginger ale. I mean, really, sugar is just not good anyway. It's more addicting than heroin. But when it comes to immune system function, your body really doesn't care for sugar. Fill it with things that Mother Nature made. What I tell people is if God didn't make it, don't eat it. So, fresh fruits and vegetables, lean protein, beans, nuts, things that you can have that don't bother you. I understand people have specific health issues that allow them to eat or not eat some of the things that I just mentioned. But obviously, if there's something that's in a package that lasts for 2 years, that tells you something. Okay.
Oh my gosh. It is amazing that from time to time, things I find in my pantry and in my refrigerator that's been there for a year and it still is like there's no mold. It's like, how does this even happen?
Yeah, you really have to think about that from the food perspective, because it isn't really even just about the food itself, but it's also about what they use to prepare the food. So, and that's a whole other topic, but you can be eating something that you feel is healthy, but if it comes in a package or a jar or a can, and the ingredient list is more than 2 or 3 things, then you're getting things in your body that probably were never intended to be there in the beginning.
Well, it's interesting. Years ago, back when I was a home ec teacher, even back then, that was gracious, 35, 40 years ago. I mean, we were already saying only shop your grocery store around the perimeter.
That's right.
Don't even go down the aisles. The perimeter is the fresh food. It's the real stuff.
Yep. The opposite when I go to Home Depot, but that's another topic. Anyways, that's really good for your psyche. So the reason I'm starting out, and probably people are thinking, yeah, we already know that. Yeah, we already know that. It hurts to really emphasize and re-emphasize because we've been programmed into thinking certain things and being certain ways. And so when we're stressed out, what do we smoke, we drink, we eat sugar, we're emotional eaters, and so that's where the choices piece of it comes in. But if you ate, a chocolate fudge brownie supreme ice cream thing the last night, your ability to think positively the next day isn't going to be there. Because so that's really important. How you treat your body and what you put into your body has a huge impact on your psyche and how you feel and the choices you make. And so the more bad choices you make, the more bad choices you're going to make. Because because even intellectually and mentally, your brain it's mad at you because you're being really unhealthy and making your body really unhappy with the things you're doing to it. So,
well, and it really does come down to choices. And I know it's harder when you have a family, but I've lived on my own now for many, many years. And it's just like, after the holidays and people had given me all kinds of wonderful treats, I made a conscious choice this week, even though I loved it. I bagged up a lot of it and gave it to a group of guys who move for a living. They can burn 1,000,000 calories and it won't affect them. And then unfortunately a few things just went into the garbage can because as long as it's sitting on my counter, it's like, oh, I'll just take a bite of this chocolate covered cherry, which I absolutely love. And then it's like, but I think it was your email this week that said those big red lines on your scale that you got on, being 1 ounce at a time. It's like that bite of that chocolate covered cherry is an ounce at a time.
It's true. It's much, much harder to get rid of as we get older. And because we're women, and I was going to discuss hormone balance a little bit, but that's really not natural because women, as we're getting older and stuff, sometimes the way that we have to adjust hormones requires other things, obviously. But you can do a lot even with hormone health by the very same things I'm discussing with you now. Reducing stress. Smoking increases your estrogen. That's a bad thing. Lack of sleep increases your cortisol and increases your estrogen. That's a bad thing. Lack of sleep also impairs other hormones, which then make it harder for you to lose weight, so there is a hormonal component to it that also is a natural way. But technically, if you just do the things I'm discussing with you today, all of those other things will fall into place. So since we're on the topic of weight, this is a really big one. And this is specifically, now the research is specifically tied to COVID. It's been there with other illnesses and infections in the past, but there is actually quite a bit of research, which is interesting given the fact that COVID really hasn't been around that long compared to some of the other infections that we've had around. But people that are overweight have been shown to have more severe symptoms of COVID, and they're more likely to die from it. Even if they don't smoke, even if they don't drink, irrespective of their age, just being overweight has such a negative impact on immune system function and will increase the risk of more severe disease and death. So now is a great time of the year. Everybody's usually on their New Year's Eve resolution bandwagon or New Year's resolution bandwagon. I don't believe in those because, what's going to happen after the first 5 days? It really needs to be a change, a lifestyle change. It needs to be a long journey. There's really no destination. The destination is that you feel good one day to the next day. You take it one little step at a time. You don't sit there and think, oh my God, I have to lose 20 pounds. No, today, it doesn't matter how much weight I lose. I'm just going to make better choices for myself. And if I lose 1 ounce, hey, that's 1 ounce. It's 1 ounce down instead of up. So, it took you however many years it took you to get where you are. I tell people if I was that good, Oprah would be on my show. So got to take time. The more drastic changes that you make, the less likely you are to keep doing that. Okay. So that's really, really important. I used to weigh 220 pounds. So I know what I'm talking about. You have to be patient. You have to give yourself time. And it's about little choices. Just, am I going to eat this Twinkie or am I going to eat this apple? And once you start doing it, you get so proud of yourself and you watch the scale coming down and you feel better, then it's a lot easier to keep going. So, okay. The next thing is exercise. Another favorite of everyone. Again, the eye roll is coming. I feel it. But again, it's really, really important. And so everybody always asks me, well, how much exercise am I supposed to be getting? Well, believe it or not, even though everybody perceives exercise to be a good thing, if you exercise too much, it's actually more harmful for you than if you don't exercise at all. And so, yes, and there is something called overtraining syndrome. I've taken care of people in my medical career that were disasters because they were working out, training for a triathlon or Olympic athletes. Again, exercise is a stress on your system. In moderation, it's a good stress. But again, bell-shaped curve, if you end up on the wrong end of that curve, everything in your body is going to break down, including your immune system. And actually, there's research to show that people that exercise too much, they have more infections. In fact, if you look at what usually takes them out of their sport, number 1 is injury, number 2 is infection, because it damages their immune system so much. So when we're talking exercise, anything is better than nothing, okay? And even if that means, there's a really good app I use on my phone. It's free, which are my favorite 4-letter word is free. And it's called Fit On. And they have all of these little video clips, anywhere from 5 minutes to 40 minutes on every single type of exercise you can imagine, free. I mean, if you can take 5 minutes to go to the refrigerator and pour yourself a soda, you can take 5 minutes to do crunches or whatever exercise makes you happy. Even if it's walking outside, the recommendation is as many days as possible, but for no more than 45 minutes at a time. More than that is considered too much, specifically for normal immune system function or optimal immune system function. So I try to shoot for, at least 3 days a week, more often if I can. And again, it doesn't have to be aerobic act. It doesn't have to be running on your treadmill. It can just be taking a walk outside. It can be doing something in your home, and I tell people, if you don't have the ability or you don't want to or whatever, if you're parking at work, park far, far, far away from the door. So you have to walk further to the door. If you work in a place that has stairs, take the stairs up and down, don't take the elevator. People can get really creative when they want to. And again, it's focusing on building immune system function. Okay. I don't like fear to dictate what people do, but if that's what it's going to take, then I'm trying to scare you. Okay. I'm going to scare you into exercising so you don't get sick. Okay. Couple more things. And so the next thing is gut health. And that ties really into everything else we've already talked about. So your immune system, guess where most of your immune system is? I'm making it easy because I saved it till we're talking about the gut, right? So it's in the gut. 70 to 80% of your immune system is between your mouth and your rectum. Scary. But if you think about it, that's because most of what comes into our body comes into through our mouths. So there are layers upon layers of different, I mean, we're talking Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, and a few other factions we probably don't even know about that are in there standing guard, trying to protect us from all of the stuff that we are putting into our mouths on a daily basis. And so that's a huge amount of influence that the gut has over your immune system function. And your gut is directly related to, the health of your gut is directly related to the things we've already talked about. How do you sleep? How much stress do you have? Do you drink? Do you smoke? Do you eat bad things? Do you eat healthy things? All of those things have a huge influence over how your gut is going to process things and how well the immune system in your gut's going to work. Now, a lot of people will say, well, you know what? I get up every day and I have 1 or 2 normal bowel movements and I have no problems with my gut whatsoever. Guess what? That does not mean that you have a healthy gut, nor does it mean that you have a healthy immune system.
That is probably one of the first things. I remember one year you said, this year we're going to work on your gut health. And I went, hey, I have great bowels. I have great bowels. And here's what I remember you saying. Were you born in the United States? Did you, have you ever eaten processed food? And there was one other thing you said. And I was like, well, yeah. In other words, you put me in my place.
No, in other words, unless you're dead, you've got gut problems. If you are alive on the planet Earth in this day and age, you've got gut problems. So, and there are people that really get into this, and there's all kinds of things that you can do to optimize gut health. Obviously, we don't have time to talk about all of that right now, but at the very least, don't put garbage in your body. It's going to and alcohol causes leaky gut. Eating things that are high in sugar, trans fats, processed foods cause inflammation to the lining of your intestine. And at the very least, take a decent probiotic. That's not really natural. I understand. There are ways you can make natural probiotics. So I guess, yes, but there are also supplements if you want to do that. But gut health, very, very, very important. Then the last 2 things, and I kept them last because they will be influenced by all of the other things we just discussed. And they directly tie into Linda, your first 4 episodes and probably every other episode you're ever going to have talking about self-awareness, personal responsibility, personal choices, attitude. So all of those things will be affected by how you sleep, how stressed out you are, what you eat, what you drink, do you exercise? Okay, again, so I think I've made my point that those things are all interconnected, mind, body, right? So they've actually, again, this is all research based. If you have an attitude of gratitude and optimism, your immune system will work better. You can actually think your way into better health because your thoughts influence your stress hormones and your brain hormones, which then influence your physical body and how it functions, but also your thought process. So positive begets positive, negative begets negative. And if you have a lot of negative karma energy, negative thoughts about yourself, negative thoughts about other people, just negative, 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 that will translate chemically into negative things that will affect you from the neck down. Well, technically from the neck up too, but physically, and I can't even tell you the amount of research that's been done on this. People that, if they have a positive attitude, they're healthier, they live longer, they have less disease, and they have healthier habits, which is another reason why they live longer and they're healthier, because they don't smoke or drink or do whatever they need to do to de-stress. they have other means of doing that. Now, this is hilarious because I'm type AAA OCD. So for me to sit and tell you to do all of this is really kind of funny because I'm a work in progress, I'll be honest. But so that, and actually this is really kind of funny. I was chuckling when I saw this yesterday, kind of preparing. There's a study out of the University of Kentucky. They did research on 146 law students, and they found that the law students that were really, really stressed out, but in a negative way, like self-deprecating, negative, life stinks, why did I do this? They did little tests on them to see how well their immune response would be. And the people that were more negative and pessimistic had less of an immune response, so a weaker immune system, than the other students that did not have that type of mental attitude. So your attitude is really key. But again, if you eat a chocolate donut, your attitude's going to go south regardless, no matter what you do. I mean, you can be the most positive person on the planet, but that kind of food just does things to your brain chemicals that's just going to make you not so pleasant for a while. And so along that same route, meditation. Now, I have never been able to meditate for the reasons I've already explained. So I meditate, but people think that in order to meditate, you have to sit on your floor with your arms crossed and your legs crossed and say, Om. Yeah, I lasted about 10 seconds. That was it for me. But you can meditate. I meditate working outside in my yard. I love my plants. I love my birds. I love to be in nature, in the dirt. The dirtier, the better. And that's how I meditate. Or I take walks. That's how I meditate. Or I ride my bike. You know, people do it in different ways. So don't think you have to force yourself into a tiny little room or your closet and do this perfect little meditation thing. Yeah, if you figure out how to do that, please tell the rest of us. But so much research on meditation, the positive health effects of meditation, how quickly, like a light switch, it can turn a bad immune system into a good immune system just by shutting down, turning off, breathing, deep breathing, just calm, just don't think about anything, which again, sometimes people need something else to focus on in order to do that. But, all of these things I've discussed really are for overall health. But to be quite honest, they are also they all help improve health because of, to a certain extent, their positive effects on immune system function. And can I just point out that these are all free, free. Like, in order to sleep, you don't have to pay for that. I mean, unless you need to maybe take a few supplements to get the ball rolling. But, putting your cell phone away, that's free. Quitting alcohol, well, that'll save you a bundle depending on how much you normally drink or smoke. So that could actually save you money. But everything else we're talking about, really, it's about personal choice. And guess what? Nobody is going to come after you to do it. You have to do it. You have to do it. So yeah. I tell my patients, again, because most of them are women, treat your body like you treat your children, because you know how psycho women are about their children and how much they love their children and how they always put their children first with everything. They usually are putting everybody else first before they put themselves first. Most of the women that I work with have themselves at the bottom of their totem pole. Everybody else is above them. And I say, okay, if you can't love yourself enough, pretend like you're your sister or your mom. Pretend like that, or do it for them. Let them develop some healthy lifestyle habits with you, right?
Right.
So, because sometimes women, they're just they're so self-give, they give so much of themselves. So I have to try to incentivize them different ways to convince them that they're valuable enough to do it for themselves. That's what I'm trying to say.
All right. Now, someone is going to catch this, so I'm going to ask you. I don't think we have 10 things, so I'm going to go over the list with you. There's an OCD person watching this that will message me and say,
I hope so.
I know. She's your soul sister. All right. Stress less, sleep, food, alcohol, cigarette. That's top 5. And then number 6 was exercise, gut health. Number 8 was attitude choices.
Exercise was 1. Let me go through my list. How about that?
Okay.
Number 1 is stress less. Number 2, savor your sleep. Okay. Number 3, lose weight, if that's applicable, of course. Number 4 is ideally no alcohol, but practically speaking, limited as much as possible. Smoking, there is no mediocrity there. It's just like, don't do it. Number 6 was exercise.
Mhm.
7, diet. 8 was gut health. 9 is an attitude of gratitude. And 10 is meditation in whatever form that might be for you.
All right. All right. Well, I wanted to kind of go back to number 10 on meditation and prayer and all of that, because I did notice a big difference in the middle of probably somewhere in 2020 where it was just like, I've not been shy with my followers. It was rough. I mean, it was rough for me to have a bunch of people telling me where I was going to go, who was I going to see, and what I was going to wear, and for somebody who's as freedom and choice as me. And I started changing my prayers at night and just the
Mhm.
thought process every night before I would go to sleep. And it was when you said it'll happen magically. It really was magic. I mean, it wasn't magic. I mean, clearly it's not magic, but it happened immediately where I just said, you know what? I can't control any of this. Okay. I cannot control any of this. And me thinking about it, worrying about it, plotting against it doesn't do me any good. So I just give it over. I'm just giving it over to you, God, and let me sleep, and I'll deal with what I can deal with tomorrow. And it was amazing. Within a week, I was like, not that I didn't care, but I didn't really care.
Well, it's impossible to please everyone. And the only person on the planet you can control is yourself, really. You can
Yes.
control your thoughts. You can control, and this has been a lesson that it's been very difficult for me to even learn, and it's still a work in progress. But, I listen to people and I even am guilty of this. Well, this person did this to me and this person made me feel this way. And thinking, I've read my fair share of self-help books like everybody else, but you can't really control what other people are going to say or do, but you can control your response to them. And I know you've said that multiple times in the various places that I've interacted with you. You have a choice over everything. You have a choice of what you eat. You have a choice over what you drink. You also have a choice over who you surround yourself with, and a choice over how you are going to let other people's actions and attitudes influence you.
Well,
And
and probably do an entire episode on that. We are a product of the 5 people that we surround ourselves with. And,
right.
in today's world, that can be social media, it can be any media, it can be any voice. And that's why I am so appreciative of the people who are listening to this, because it was a choice for you to hit play. It was a choice for you to make a decision today to fill your mind. And you put Dr. Edwards and myself in your head today. That was a choice. And you will become like those 5 voices. I know that my success in my sales business was a direct result of feeding my brain every single time I got in my car with a CD or a cassette of people who were successful. And now, with the advent of podcasts and all the downloads that are available, it is amazing to me. You can learn anything in the world about anything right now. And sometimes the things that people spend their time listening to is amazing when you could literally learn anything you wanted.
Yeah. Well, and that's a really good point. Just a final thought. When people are on Dr. Google trying to figure out things to do, because there's lots and lots and lots of misinformation on Dr. Google, please be careful where you're looking. That's all I want to say, just on that final parting thought. That's why
Yeah.
Linda has me on the show. That's why there are other legitimate places. But anyway,
All right. So, Dr. Edwards, again, let's reiterate the ways that people can find you, find your materials, and your Facebook. And if they wanted to even work with you, what are the steps that people need to take?
really, the best thing to do would be to go to my website. It's www.drlenaedwards.com. First of all, take a look around, make sure you'll like me. You might not like me. You might kind of say, wow, she's got a scary looking face, or she kind of looks whatever. Or, but there's a lot of information there about me. I'm human, and I really try to make my website reflect me as a person. Somewhere buried in there is my CV. If you really want to read it, that's great. But if you're interested in signing up for the Facebook group, there's a link to do that there. If you're interested in scheduling a consult, there are places on the website where you can do that as well. But that's probably, I will tell you that I only work with women now because I love them way more than men. And they also tend to be a little bit more complex with their health challenges, which is something I love to take care of. So if you're a guy who happens to be listening, sorry about your luck. And no, I don't know anybody, so I'm not sure where to send them right now. But I love my women. And I do, because I do have quite a few people that want to work with me. I've basically made a cutoff to where I will work with any woman who is over the age of 30, basically.
Well, and how
So,
long is that waiting list at this point in time? I know there's a
well,
time.
I think my first consultation opening is in the first or second week of February, I believe. I really try to keep it. I don't like people to have to wait, but when I work with patients, I give them my undivided attention and I spend a lot of time with them. So I don't work with that many people at the same time. And because of that, I can get people better much more quickly, but I can't take care of as many people at the same time. So,
Well, and see, I love that strategy. And I think anybody watching this wishes everybody in their life that's a professional would have that strategy. I know that was one reason my son went into the profession he went into in his medical practice, was he was not going to be a 15-minute doctor. Okay. You don't see my son for 15 minutes. Okay. What he does. And I so value that. And I wish more people in all professions would have that attitude. I'll take less customers, but I'll do a better job. Well, Dr. Edwards, you have been an incredible blessing to us today. And you guys, you can find her on Facebook under From Barely Surviving to Absolutely Thriving. I highly recommend it. There's great files there. And you interact there, which I think is pretty amazing. People ask questions and you answer them. So
well, that's the point, right?
is a point. Anything else, Dr. Edwards, you'd like to say before we close out this session?
Thank you so much for being you. Thank you for starting this journey. I'm so honored to be part of it. Thank you for inviting me. And I know I speak on behalf of countless women. We love you.
Oh, well,
And
thank
God bless
you.
you.
Thank you all very, very much. And it would not be a proper common sense episode if I did not end it with my invitation to my soulmate who is yet to discover me. But I'm sure that he will, because I'm going to do thousands of these episodes and he'll eventually, somebody knows him and will say, you got to check this really cool chick out who thinks you are her soulmate. So, Micro, I love it that you brought back dirty jobs. I love everything you say. I can actually finish your sentences. So if you just are just looking for that soulmate, right here. All right, you guys, wrap it up. Let's have some music. Thank you. All right. Goodbye, everybody. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.